welcome to the 62nd episode of UPSC Prep Decoded, a podcast brought to you by Abhyankar's IS. I, Anjali Pandey, your host for today, would like to welcome Ashay Abhyankar to this conversation.
Thanks, Anjali.
Today's topic is food security and food safety in India. So before we dive into this broad topic, what is the difference or the meaning of the terms food safety and food security, and how are they different yet interconnected?
Absolutely. These terms are always mistaken to be synonymous terms, right? But let's understand what food safety means and what food security is, right? So when you look at food safety, you're basically trying to understand whether the food, whether it be raw, cooked or processed, is food that is fit for consumption, right? When I say fit for consumption, I mean free from contamination, right? Any sort of microbial, parasitic contamination. So when it's fit for consumption, it essentially should be something that's free from contamination. Now, food security is a very, very broad umbrella, right? So when you're looking at food security, you are also looking at the fact of whether there is physical security of food. For example, can I go to a shop and actually pick up what I need? Or is there economic security of food, that can I reach out for that product that is there in the shop or on the shelf and I actually have the resources or the money to purchase it? So many a times we have seen, particularly in India, that the challenges that we went through in the past 65 years were challenges wherein there was at one point of time the physical security of food thanks to the Green Revolution, and then you had the problem of economic security, wherein you had enough food in food security of India go downs, but you had children dying because of malnourishment. So food security is a challenge, right? Food safety is also a challenge, and I think as we get this conversation started, we would be able to kind of delve in it. I'm sure you have lots of questions as well.
It is often said that India faces a major challenge in grain management rather than in grain production. So to what extent do you consider this statement is true?
It's extremely true. In fact, if you see, we don't have production related problems at all, right? There are only challenges in the supply chain dynamics. So when you look at the 3 farm laws, brilliant pieces of legislation that unfortunately had to be repealed, you realize that they were essentially trying to solve the supply side dynamics, whether it be with regard to cold storage, with regard to warehousing, with regard to better marketing, with regard to remunerative pricing, with regard to contract farming. So you realize that until and unless the supply chain dynamics in this country are fixed, we will keep having problems related to the economic and physical scarcity of food. So let me give you an example here, right? If you look at India in terms of milk and vegetable production, we are in the top 3 globally. But do you know that over 50% of fresh vegetable and fruit produced every day is wasted because it does not have right back-end channels to reach the market? Now, this is a huge anomaly, right? It's something that needs to be fixed. So when we look at the supply chain dynamics, that is exactly what the government is trying to do. If we look at the infrastructure pipeline that we are trying to build, the logistics that we are trying to build, the agro-processing industries, the cluster-based approach, these are all the ways in which mega food parks. So we are going to have a large amount of agricultural produce that is going to reach, basically from farm to fork. And when it does, we are going to have right price discovery, we are going to have larger consumption, we are going to have better nutrition, we are going to have healthy people, and we are going to have a healthy nation.
So from the policies point of view, how do we manage or tackle these food safety issues?
Right. See, the FSSAI, which is the regulatory body with regard to food safety, is doing some brilliant work. Right. One major information about food security is that you must security as well, and of course the safety aspects like you're mentioning, are that you must know your food, right? So once you know your food and you know what is right, or rather the Right Eat campaign, right, which is also being focused by the FSSAI. So for example, you must know that when you are having ice cream that's basically made out of hydrogenated oil, you can't call it ice cream and you need to call it frozen dessert, right? You also have most of the packaged foods today that give out very, very detailed instructions about the ingredients that they're using, whether they're preservative free or not. So I believe that this is going to allow the consumers or the users to actually make very, very informed choices with regard to their diet, with regard to dietary restrictions, and it's going to start creating a culture to eat right, to eat healthy, and most importantly, eat fresh on the basis of what your region produces. Right, so even if you look at the entire Annadan concept and the International Year of Millets, we are encouraging people to eat what's growing in our land, to consume it with pride because it's linked to our culture, it's linked to our civilizational ethos, and most importantly, it suits our biological makeup. Right, so you can think global but eat local. Right, I think that is a very, very good mantra.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. If you enjoyed this podcast, do like, share, and subscribe. And your inputs and suggestions are always welcome. You can contact us through info@abhyankaris.com. Show us some love on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter handles that go by the name abhyankaris. Don't forget that these podcasts are also available on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Keep listening and stay tuned for more.